Hi, I'm Barbara Beck, host of Welcome Home, where we love telling life-changing stories that offer us hope and inspire us in our walk with Jesus Christ. When we produce Welcome Home, we're always on the lookout for new stories that we can make into special programs that simply spotlight someone's journey, that just tell the story. And today's life-changing story is one which will hopefully touch your heart and give you a glimpse into how God truly fashions His custom-made plan for each of our lives. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's life-changing story. So glad that you joined us today, viewers. AJ Fowinkle is here with us today to tell us about going from rock bottom to the mountaintop. Welcome, AJ. So glad to have you here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us a little bit about your family. You're married, have children?
I do, yes. I've got two children. My son, JT, is 10 years old. He's in 5th grade. My daughter is 8. Her name is Ashlyn. She's in 3rd grade, and they go to Orangewood Christian School.
Very good. And you have a wife who teaches there, you were telling me?
Yes, my wife, Jennifer. Yeah, she was a prior equine veterinarian, but through an unfortunate injury is no longer able to do that career. So she's teaching at Orangewood Christian at the high school.
Good. God had a better calling maybe
for
her than dealing with horses, right?
It works beautifully because she's on the same schedule as her kids.
I know.
Which as a career professional woman was a difficult thing. And,
yes.
So it's been an answer to prayer for a lot of different ways.
Wonderful. Well, tell us, AJ, a little bit about your journey. You're an attorney now.
I am an attorney now.
Okay, which is
only
a far
by God's
cry.
grace.
Yeah, a far cry from where you were.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us what did you grow up like? What you were in a home with what? What was your home life like?
It was a great home. I mean, I grew up as a military brat, right? My dad was in the Navy as an officer and a pilot. Spent 26 years in the Navy, and other than moving around periodically to different places, we had a happy home. Grew up in the church. Was saved at an early age.
Really?
So. No, traumatic, horrible events that really happened in my life. Except for, I would just say the only thing that was kind of odd was when you move around so often, sometimes when you get to your new place and you're trying to stand out to
fit in,
friends, to fit in, you tend to, at least for me, I tended to be the one that would do the crazy stuff to get noticed.
Yeah.
And at a younger age, that was okay. As I got into high school and then in college, those crazy things got more and more crazy.
What kind of crazy things are we talking about, AJ?
Well, so, I started smoking cigarettes when I was like 10.
Wow.
Had my first alcoholic drink when I was 12.
Did your parents know any of this?
No. No.
You were good at hiding it.
Good at hiding it, yes.
Now, you told me before we went on the air you had an older brother.
Yes.
Was he aware of any of this? Did he...
I don't know to what extent he knew.
But he never ratted you out.
No, not at all.
Did he go through his own set of problems as well?
He did.
Okay.
Yes, he did. But he came through the other side as well, and has a wonderful marriage and a wonderful family. And
good. All right, so you're drinking, you're smoking.
Had my first marijuana joint when I was 13.
Wow. How did you get it? Do you remember?
It was at a party.
Okay.
And someone was having a party. Their parents weren't home, and that tends to be kind of the entry kind of method anyway. Someone that knows someone that brings it, and didn't have a very good experience that first time.
Did not?
Did not,
okay.
Which is kind of odd that I would then several years later start pursuing it.
Yeah.
And again, it started off as a recreational habit. And just to have a good time on weekends or whatever. And
you believe it's a gateway drug?
Absolutely. I know there's plenty of people that say it's not. I'm a firm believer. I've just seen it.
Right.
Just in my own personal experience and with others that I was surrounded with in that lifestyle. And then now as a criminal defense attorney seeing it. I represent them from juveniles up to adults, and you can see the trend. So I absolutely firmly believe
so you went from marijuana to harder drugs?
Yes.
And what were those?
So it started off with psychedelics in college.
LSD?
LSD, mushrooms.
Okay.
And then ecstasy. And then...
Did you ever do heroin?
I never did heroin.
Okay.
That was the only drug I did. I did pills that were of a kind of opiate based.
Yes.
But I never injected heroin.
Okay.
But I did cocaine. I did crack cocaine. I did crystal meth, other types of amphetamines. And all of that it started kind of in high school, going from recreational to more habitual, right? And when you're around people that are doing this, because no one ever starts off doing cocaine, right? But you're around people that are, and I was always, thinking, oh, cocaine's bad, don't do cocaine ever. But then you're around someone who's doing it.
And they're okay. They seem to be okay.
They're not selling their kids or TVs to go get a next fix or whatever.
They look like you. They're acting like you.
Right, exactly. And so, when you live in that lifestyle, when you surround people that are doing the same things as you're doing, it becomes easier, which is why it's a gateway to start experimenting with other types of drugs.
Are you scared to death for your children?
I am. In this day and age, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, my wife and I have talked about when's the age-appropriate time to talk to them about my past, my history.
They don't know your story?
Not yet.
Do they watch
Not
TV?
Yet. They do.
They might be seeing your program.
Yes, but we kind of shield what they can watch.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, I'm in the process of trying to write a book, which is going to be dedicated to my kids. So we're definitely going to be sharing our stories, my story.
Your wife didn't have the same story?
No, not at all. She was the straight A student that did nothing wrong. Which is why she became a doctor and I became the attorney.
And why did she choose you, I wonder?
We met in high school, and she
didn't know you were doing all this stuff?
She knew, but she could see through all of that. She knew deep down that wasn't the true me.
Good.
I don't know how, but that's what she says.
Well, she has a heart of compassion, too, for her to even want to be a doctor, right?
Yes. So it was actually through her help that kind of helped me get out of my struggle and hitting rock bottom. So I was in Tampa, graduated high school and was going to college there, and the party atmosphere and lifestyle just was catching up, and grades weren't going well, and so I decided to run away from my problems instead of addressing them, and I went to the military. And
before finishing college?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. When you run away from your problems and you don't address your problems, you're only going to run right back into them. And so when I joined the military, I very quickly surrounded myself with individuals in the military that were doing drugs as well. And it didn't take long for that to catch up. And the military eventually caught me through a positive urinalysis, which started the process of me being discharged. And I did some stupid things on my way out of the military, which caused me some more problems. We got caught several more times with drugs. And so they court-martialed me, gave me a bad conduct discharge, and sent me off to federal penitentiary.
Really?
So I had to spend 60 days and behind bars.
Wow.
Because of my drug issues, right? And prior to going into the military in Tampa, I had, because of my party lifestyle and spending money only on that, I had ended up going from apartment to apartment to apartment to the street. And I literally, everything I owned was in a suitcase that I would just drag behind me, not knowing where I was going to spend the night.
But you have a family. This is what's odd about this to me. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's the norm. But you have a mom and dad, loving and caring parents.
Very loving and caring.
And a brother.
Yes.
And yet you're on the street.
Because there's no way I wanted to call them.
So they don't know that this is happening?
They don't know. I mean, I think they have an idea, but I don't think they knew how bad it was at that time. And my dad at that time was still in the military, and he was stationed out in San Diego, and I was still in Tampa. And so
it was easier to hide.
It was much easier to hide, and I definitely didn't want to call them. I mean, you push away those that want to help and that love you because you don't want to hear it. And you surround yourself with people that are doing the same thing as you're doing, which is what the devil wants you to do, right?
What's it like when you're in prison?
It's very sobering.
Are you crying every day, or are you getting tougher and more bitter and fighting, or what is A.J. Fowinkle like in prison?
I was extremely ashamed. I felt a tremendous amount of guilt. I mean, one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to call my dad to let him know that his son was getting kicked out of the Navy for drug possession. Right.
Did they disown you or anything like that?
No. In fact, my dad showed up.
Good.
I mean, he drove up to where I was being held, and in his full dress, navy whites, which hit me right, like a dagger in the heart. But they were there. They were always there
good.
wanting to support me. But they, you know, I talk to them now, and they're like, it was so difficult for them to kind of know what was going on, maybe not the full extent of it, but to know that something bad was going on, and to be there, but to not be able to do anything.
Right. So what part does your faith play? You said you were saved as a little boy, so you know the Lord.
Yes.
You're sitting there in prison. You're a drug addict, I would assume.
Yes.
Homeless, a drug addict in prison. What is the Lord saying to you?
I wasn't trying to talk to the Lord at that time.
Okay.
I had completely turned from my faith.
Okay.
My first couple semesters in college, I had taken classes like geology, and philosophy courses like existentialism, and humanities, and so you learn all these things that are not biblical, right? And the lifestyle that I was living at the time was very easy for me to follow along and go, yes, there is no God. Yes, this is all made up. Yes, it mimics other religions. Yes, it's and I took a world religions class, and so all these things helped influence me, as well as the lifestyle that I was living, to walk away and kind of denounce God. And so I'm sitting in prison, right? I'm not crying. I'm very ashamed. I don't want to talk to my parents. I don't want to talk to my loved ones. And so I just stuck my head in the sand and just said, I just hope this gets over soon, and I'll just go do whatever it is that I need to do next.
Serve your time. You knew you only had, what'd you say, 60 days. You knew that you could be out in 60 days.
Yes.
Okay, so you're biding your time.
Biding my time. I did a lot of reading.
Did you get in trouble ever
No.
in prison?
No.
Okay. No, everybody left you alone?
Everyone left me alone. I didn't have any issues or problems. I had my own cell.
Okay.
Because I was a short timer. I mean, I wasn't in main population.
Right.
We were in the minimum side. But still, I mean, it was not fun.
So you're out after 60 days, and what is your plan at that point?
I wanted to stay in California.
Okay, but you don't have plans to stop using drugs. You don't have plans to change your lifestyle.
No.
Okay.
My goal was to bury my sorrows in drugs.
Okay.
Because it's a release, right? It's a way to escape your issues and your problems. That's why a lot of people get hooked and addicted to alcohol or drugs, is because some event has happened, right? And they want to forget about life for a while, right? And so whether it's drinking at night to forget about a hard day at work, or a certain struggle that's going on, and that's where it starts. That's where the cycle begins.
So you're about 20 years old, getting out of jail, something like that?
I'm in my mid-20s, yeah.
Mid-20s.
24.
Okay.
Yeah, 24, 25.
Okay.
And I wanted to stay in California. I was stationed in San Diego. My dad had already moved back to the East Coast and was in Florida. And I was stationed in San Diego when all this happened. And I was going to, join a band and stay in California. and my dad, luckily, I called my parents. It was around Christmas. And he said, well, why don't you come home for Christmas? And then when I got home for Christmas, they kind of talked me into staying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so.
Okay. Are you living with them at that point?
So I stayed with them for a little while, and then started going back to school at in Tallahassee. And went to the community college there to start off. And certain steps in your life where you're like, okay, I'm done. I want to kind of put my right foot in front, and let's take the next right step, and let's start doing these things. And that was that step initially that I thought I was okay. Let's put the past behind me. Let's just move on. And I'm in a college town. I'm in Tallahassee. I'm around friends that I knew in high school, right?
Not good.
And fell right back into it again.
Right. Is your wife there too at this point?
No. We weren't dating at that time. Okay. She had just graduated FSU and was in the process of getting into vet school at University of Florida. And so she was kind of there, but again, I was pushing away all those that loved me and cared for me, including my parents. And so for another about year and a half or 2 years, I'm kind of living in this hell. Yeah. I literally am in my rock bottom, right? And I'm working at a hamburger joint, flipping burgers, and I'm 26. And for me, it was just like this epiphany. I woke up one day and I said, to borrow Dave Ramseyism, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. This is not fun. In high school, this was fun. My early college days, this was fun. It's no longer fun.
Why? Why was it not fun anymore?
Because I didn't have any money. I'm being evicted everywhere. I'm not doing anything. Other than working at the minimal hours that I could, just so that we could pay enough money to get our drugs and to party.
Right.
And that got,
but nothing
for me,
has really changed.
It got old. No.
Except that it got old. I'm wondering if maybe it was the voice of the Holy Spirit.
Well, I know for a fact that my mom was praying for me every day.
There you go.
Right? And and she's let me know that after the fact. They knew, I mean, I'm living in the same town as them. If anyone knew how I was raised, and our families are very close, the fact that I lived in the same town and never talked to them for about 2 years was a very difficult thing, right? Especially for them.
Right.
And so, but my mom praying every day for me. And I think that was that voice of reason, the Holy Spirit, that was, pressing upon my heart. Because I woke up and I just said, I'm done.
And that was it.
I'm
that one-time voice of the Holy Spirit that took care of it.
And I called my dad at work.
Yeah.
And said, I'm thinking about wanting to come home.
Wow. And live with them.
And live with them. And my dad said, okay, we've been waiting for this call.
Oh.
He said, but so almost like a prodigal son kind of moment. And
any parameters?
Oh yeah. Lots. He said, if you're going to do this, you're going to follow our rules. But I needed that, and I was okay with that.
Do you remember what the rules were?
Oh yeah. So I'm 26 years old. I have a curfew, a midnight curfew, right? The only 26-year-old in the world that has a midnight curfew, right? He made me get a notebook, and I had to go and apply for jobs. And that's when we used to have newspapers. And you'd cut out the little, ad, and I'd tape it into a notebook and write in when I called, when I sent out a resume, follow-up calls, when in a kind of interview date was, so that they could keep track. Yeah. And eventually did get a job. And then getting me out of that age, I had debt, school debt and some credit card debt or whatever, and how to, let's get it all down and make a list and how to get out of it.
How do you get hired when you have a record?
By the grace of God, I think.
Yeah, there you go again.
I ended up getting a job at a small law office,
really?
A solo attorney.
That's crazy.
That was looking for cheap work, right? And I fit the bill.
Yeah.
But
Did your dad know him?
No.
To No connections.
Okay. No connections. But getting that job was kind of the basis and the foundation of to kind of further my dream of wanting to become an attorney. Because years prior, when I was in high school, I was on the speech and debate team. I was, a thespian with the actor, did the
So you did have
drama.
that dream long time ago to be an attorney.
To be an attorney, yeah.
Okay.
And I just thought it would never be reachable, right?
Well, especially after going to jail.
Yes, right? and I'd been arrested before going to the Navy for bouncing bad checks. So I had a criminal record as well as the bad conduct discharge equals a felony in civilian world.
Wow.
Right? So, and you got to disclose all of that information.
Sure.
On any kind of an application. So, so I started that process. It was interesting, right? Because, living at home and the other parameters, to get back to that momentarily, my dad said, look, you're not going to stay here forever. I'll give you 6 to 8 months to get yourself back on your feet, but after that, you're not going to stay here anymore. So definitely not enabling at all, right? And then he said, and oh, by the way, on Sundays we go to church, because they knew that I was kind of anti-religion at that time. Yeah. And I was like, oh. But my heart was so hardened at that. I look back at it now and laugh. I mean, at the time it wasn't a laughing matter, but I mean, I was so hardened that there were certain, you'd sing praise and worship songs in church, there were certain phrases or words that I would just not sing because I didn't believe them. Yeah. That's how damaged I was. Yeah. But just kind of over time, kind of I've been a member of Northland forever, and Joel Hunter used to always say, just bring them in and God will do the rest. Yeah. Right.
That's right.
And over time, kind of that hardening of my heart started to ease up, and kind of, remembered, hey, this is how I was raised. Yeah, I remember something, and I think all of that just kind of worked into it. My mom, shortly after I came home, said, hey, isn't that, that girl that, you used to always want to hang out with you, that went to vet school? You should give her a call. So called her up. Of course, she was very apprehensive because she knew my whole story and what had been going on. So we slowly started. But, I was like, look, I want change. I'm sick, and I think that was the key, because I'm the one that decided that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Nobody was doing it for you.
It wasn't a judge. It wasn't a court program. It wasn't a parent or a spouse. And so because of that, I knew I did not want to go back there, right? So I was okay with the curfews and the parameters and the guidelines, right? And from there, it was just doing the next right thing.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get into a law school when you have a criminal record.
Exactly.
And my GPA was not very good because I had partied my way out of school.
Right.
Right. And so I had to, my last 2 years of college, I really had to boost up my GPA, which I still didn't graduate with a great GPA, but I did well on the LSAT, which is the entrance exam.
Right.
And for law school, you need 3 things. Your GPA, the LSAT, and your written statement. And what I decided to do was to address it head on.
Good.
Right? So the opening sentence of all the personal statements to all of the different law schools that I applied to was the exact same. And it said, I have a bad conduct discharge from the military for drug abuse. And I realized that'll be a red flag for many of you. And then I went on to explain everything that I had done to overcome that.
Yeah.
And of course, rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter came in until I got that one, right? I got the one, and it wasn't Harvard. It wasn't University of Florida Law School. But I got one law school that said, yes, we'll accept you. And that's all I needed, right? Just because I had people, I had family, I had other people telling me, there's no way you can do that. You should maybe do something else. You know, we appreciate your dream and you wanting to do that, but you have too much in your background.
Right.
And so my approach was, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to find a way. And my wife helped me with that. And eventually my family, because they were the ones that initially were concerned that I wouldn't be able to get into law school. Yeah. And then when I got into law school, it was that last semester that I was in law school, and I did an internship at the public defender's office, actually here in Orlando. And I had no intentions of doing criminal defense at the time. And I was there not even a week. And I was like, there was my aha moment. There was my kind of coming full circle, the restoration. This is it. This is my purpose, right? We had been going to church, you know, on our own. My parents weren't forcing me at that point. And I kind of come full circle. And so the restoration side of the story was, I can relate to my clients. Right. In a way that other attorneys can't. Exactly. Because I've experienced what it's like to struggle with addiction, which some attorneys may have that issue, but I know what it's like to be behind bars. You know, I can sit across a table with my client and they look at me and go, you don't know what I'm going through. And I can say, yes, I can, because I've been there. Right. And I know what's going on. And that can be helpful not only for my clients, but for my client's family. You know, when you've got moms and dads that are going, I don't understand why Johnny's doing this. I can go, well, let me tell you a story. Wow. Right? And it gives them hope. And some of the greatest phone calls that I get are from prior clients or from prior parents of clients. I say, thank you so much. You have no idea how you've changed my child's life, right? Because of being able to sit down, not just representing us, but by sharing your story with us, which I don't do all the time with my clients, but by sharing your story to give us hope, to give us inspiration, to know that we could go through this struggle, through this, and them hitting their rock bottom, right? And being able to move on from this and know that there is a way out. Right.
The verse that I think of, AJ, because you have a strong faith now, your kids go to a Christian school, you go to church, you still go to Northland?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I think about Romans 8:28.
Oh, yeah.
All things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, which you obviously are. Right. Do you have a life verse, or maybe that's it?
No. Romans 8:28 was actually, it is my life verse. I was at Northland, was the director for a while of the His Way program, which is a self-help program for people struggling with addictions and codependency issues. And so, one of the things that I would kind of, teach there was for people to come up with a life verse. And Romans 8:28 was definitely, my life verse. It fits perfectly.
It absolutely does.
I look back at the struggle that I went through, right? When you're walking through it, you can't understand it. I was ashamed. I pushed people away. But I look back at it now and I get it. I mean, I truly believe the reason why that I went through that struggle was to be able to be in the position that I am now to help others that are going through struggle. And whether that's with being a criminal defense attorney or just helping others through any other type of avenue, being able to help others that are going through their struggle, right? I've been there. I've experienced it. I can relate, and I can help people and say, hey, look, you can do it.
Right.
It may be a hard road.
And it has been.
You'll get a lot of doors shut in your face. You'll get a lot of people that'll say no. But through prayer, a can-do attitude, and perseverance, and not giving up, great things can happen.
God is faithful. A.J. Fowinkle, thank you so much for sharing your story here with us today. What a great story, viewers, about God's redeeming power in our lives. He can do the impossible. He can take each one of us from rock bottom to the mountaintop. I hope you enjoyed our program today. I love hearing stories of victory in Jesus. You've heard me say many times over the air Jesus' words, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." Jesus knew that we would be tempted, we would fail, we would live our lives often fraught with trouble, but because He overcame the world and wants us to have peace, well, we have hope. And hearing stories of overcoming obstacles like drugs and alcohol, addiction, and other sinful behaviors, we can truly know with confidence that we can be victorious. Job is one of the most inspiring people in the Bible. Talk about obstacles. He lost everything: his wealth, his family, his reputation, even his health. Understandably, Job wrestled with the question, why me, God? Well, the Bible tells us he was blameless, upright, he feared God, and he shunned evil. Why should he have to go through such loss? Well, if we fast forward to the end of the book, we find that God rewarded Job's faithfulness with even more than he had had before his trials. We have no guarantee in this life that we will be as blessed as Job. Perhaps you're struggling today with health issues or financial problems that more than likely won't be resolved in this lifetime. But the lesson for each of us is this: in spite of our circumstances, if we continue to acknowledge God's sovereignty and His faithfulness in our lives, we will end up with more than okay. This life is but a vapor. The ultimate big deal is coming in the form of eternal life with Jesus Christ in heaven. One day we will live victoriously with Him. Our destination from rock bottom to mountaintop will happen. We just don't know when. We simply must stay the course. Our light and momentary problems won't always be insurmountable. Victory in Jesus is a guarantee for the faithful. And that, dear friends, is our note of hope for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and God bless you.